Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to configure traffic rules for the NSG Subnet AZ1 network security group so that it allows RDP traffic from my workstation as well as HTTP traffic from the internet. What we'll also do is allow traffic to and from the on-prem or simulated on-prem network address range. We'll block everything else. So to start configuring rules to allow and block certain traffic, what we need to do is select our network security group from our dashboard. And what I'm going to do here is open up what's my IP. And let me copy my IP address. Now, what's my IP is telling me what my public IP address is. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use this when I create a rule to block RDP so that I can only allow RDP from my workstation. We obviously don't want to leave RDP open to the entire internet. So what we'll do is we'll create a rule in our network security group that allows RDP only from this IP address. So let's bounce back over into our network security group. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into inbound security rules and I'm going to click add here. What we're going to do is allow RDP from my IP address. So to do so, I simply select the source dropdown and I have really four options here: any, an IP address, a specific service tag, or an application security group. What I'm going to do here is select IP address. And if we click on the icon to hover, we can see here it tells us a little bit about the actual source options. What I'm going to do here is specify my IP address. And if we hover over source port ranges, we can see there's a couple different ways we can do this. We can specify a single port, such as port 80, a port range, or even a comma-separated list. What we're going to do here is allow traffic from any source port since we know it's coming from my workstation, so we'll leave the star as the default. If we hover over the icon for destination, we can see that the destination filter can be any, an IP range, an application security group, or a default tag. If we select the dropdown, we can see our options here. Now what I'm going to do here is leave this at any. Now I could limit this to just specific IP addresses or to the virtual network itself. I could also specify the application security group, but essentially, since I'm not quite sure what we're going to be deploying on this virtual network yet, since we're just getting started in the lab, I'm going to leave this at any. Again, I'm not overly concerned about security because I know any traffic coming in is coming from my particular workstation. So to allow just RDP, we're going to specify port 3389 here in the destination port range. Obviously, we can specify either TCP protocols, UDP, or both. And we're going to do both by selecting any here. And we can either allow or deny. This is an allow rule, so we'll leave it alone. Down in the priority box, if we hover over, we can see that rules are processed in priority order. What this means is that the lower the number, the higher the priority of the rule. And what Microsoft recommends is that you leave gaps between those rules. That's why you see a default priority of 100. What this does is allow you to add rules later on in between existing rules without having to edit the existing rules to change their priority. So we'll leave our priority at 100 here, and we'll change our name to 3389. I'm not worried about a description here, and we'll go ahead and click Add. So we can now see our priority 100 rule for port 3389 created. It's allowing 3389 from the source, which is my workstation, to anything on the subnet, since that's what the network security group is assigned to. Now, what we also want to do for this security group is create a rule that allows HTTP traffic from the internet, because we'll be doing some HTTP exercises later on. We'll leave the source at any, since now we don't know where the HTTP traffic would be coming from. We'll leave source port at star, Destination, we'll leave it at any because we don't have anything deployed yet. And we'll leave our destination port range at 8080. We can leave the protocol at any, the action at allow, and we'll leave the priority at 110, or we could set it to 200 for that matter. So we'll go down, click Add. So at this point, the subnet that we defined earlier, subnet AZ1, is protected by the NSG subnet AZ1 network security group. The inbound security rules on the network security group ensure that port 3389 traffic, which is RDP, is only allowed in from my own workstation. And it's also specifying that port 8080 traffic, which is HTTP, be allowed in from anywhere. Any other traffic that's coming in outside of the custom rules that we created or the default rules that were created is blocked. Now later on, we're going to do some exercises that require our new network here, our subnet AZ1, to communicate with our simulated on-prem environment. So what we want to do is create an inbound rule that allows traffic from that specific network. Now what we're going to do is bounce back out to our dashboard and click on our VNet on-prem. This is the simulated network that we're going to be receiving traffic from. We can see the address space here is 10.0.0.0/16. So let's copy that and bounce back out to our dashboard. If we go back into our network security group, we can go into inbound rules and create yet another rule. This time, for source, we're going to specify an IP address, but we're going to do a range in CIDR format. So now what we're doing here is telling the rule to allow anything from the 10.0.0.0/16 network. Again, we'll leave source port ranges open. We'll leave destination to any. And for destination port ranges, since again, we're not sure what we're going to be doing throughout the rest of this course, we'll open it up all the way. So we're essentially telling this rule to allow anything from this on-prem network to anything else in the subnet AZ1 virtual network. We'll set the protocol to any, and since it's an allow rule, we'll leave the action set to allow, and we'll set the priority to 300. We'll change our name to any inbound from on-prem. So now essentially this tells me anything from the on-prem is going to be allowed through. So we'll go ahead and add this rule. So at this point, our NSG, or network security group, is now allowing 3389 from my workstation, HTTP traffic from anywhere on the internet, and any traffic from my simulated on-prem environment. Now what we're going to want to do is create one more rule, and it's actually going to be an outbound rule. Now, since our inbound rule is allowing traffic in from our on-prem environment, we're going to need to create an outbound rule that does the same thing, allowing traffic back to that network. So we'll go ahead and click Outbound Security Rules, and we'll go ahead and click Add. We'll leave the source set to any. So what this will do is allow anything on the protected subnet, in this case subnet AZ1, to go out. We'll open up the ports on both sides, but we'll select the IP option for destination, and we'll set it to 10.0.0.0/16, which is the network address space on the on-prem environment. We'll leave protocol and action set at their defaults, and we'll leave our priority set to 100, and then we'll change our name to any outbound to on-prem. And then we can click Add. So at this point, our network security group is configured to allow the traffic that we need. It's going to allow traffic outbound from the subnet AZ1 to our on-prem environment, and it's going to allow 3389 from my workstation, 8080 from the internet, and any from our on-prem environment. So with that, let's call it a wrap, and I'll see you over in the next lesson.